Hey everyone, Dr. Charlie Johnson, physical therapist here, and I help people naturally solve, through healthy alternative options, their pain problems instead of things like pills, medications, injections, or even worse, surgery. So I help teach people and coach people through how to use movement as medicine. One of the questions I get all the time from people, just had it the other day, a guy came in the clinic and he said, hey Dr. Charlie, I hurt my back, I was consulting with him, and he wanted to know, what can I keep doing? Can I keep going to the gym? Should I keep lifting? Can I go to yoga? Am I able to run or go on a bike? Whatever, right? So he had a lot of questions about what he could continue to do while he was feeling pain. So I want to walk you through sort of my answer there. It's a common question I get every day. People wondering whether or not they're hurting themselves, wondering what they can get away with, what they can do, what is okay to feel and what is not okay to feel. So that's what I want to cover in this video. But before I do that, if you're in pain, you're serious about getting better, call 484-552-3767. Love to set up a time to chat with you and offer you a free consult. So with that being said, I want to share with you my answer to that question of how do I know if I'm hurting myself? I've been wresting away my pain because I've been told by many people not to do anything, right? So often, if you've injured yourself, you go to the family physician and they will tell you, hey, take some time off, take it easy, you shouldn't be running, don't lift weights anymore, squatting is bad for your knees, all of this nonsense, right? And you're sort of boxing yourself in, right? So here's your life, we'll just say, right? Here's your life on the big scheme of things, if you will. Here's the whole corn maze, right? And they just start chopping down the rows for you. Meaning, out here, when you were younger or maybe wherever you are at some point in your life, you could run and jump and pick things up, put them down, whatever, all these different things, and you had no problem, right? And then what happens is, as you get a little bit older, you start to maybe read stuff, research stuff, hear stories of other people, go through your own injuries or problems and are told, hey, don't do that, it's bad for you, right? And therefore you start to try to wrest away your problems. Well, wresting away your problems just leads to you boxing your life in. So now you can do less and less and less until eventually, it's really hard to do anything. And you're fearful of doing things because you're not sure what's okay and what's not okay. So with that being said, here's what I told this person who asked me whether or not, continuing to work out when he felt some pain, what he was able to do, what he wasn't able to do, and he was looking for guidance there. So he was in the midst of trying to wrest away his pain, and that had not worked for him. So he had a back problem. He had taken 8 to 10 weeks off, thinking it would just go away. And if you're watching this video and you've ever had some type of pain or problem, neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain, knee pain, whatever, it seems like the right thing to do because experts are telling you to do that, but really at the end of the day, it can actually make you worse. So first things first, how do I answer that question of can I continue to work out, and what is good pain, what is bad pain, should I feel any pain? Here it is, right? So I want you to think of this, all right? This is a stoplight. So you all have seen this before. So this is a red light, a yellow light, and a green light. And here is your question of, can I continue to work out and exercise as I have, when I have discomfort after I've hurt myself? So here you are with your question, you're standing there, and this is your filter. So picture like a big net that you're gonna run this question through. Whenever you have this thought in your mind, you're going to run it through this filter using sort of this analogy to reflect upon and answer that question, all right? So here we go. So if you're feeling pain, here's what I told him. I said, hey, well, what are you doing at the gym, number one? Or what are you doing in your life? Or what's the activity you want to get back to? And then specifically, what things within that activity seem to bother you and which things don't, right? So first things first is if you're going to the gym or you're running or whatever, there are certain things about that activity that might bother you. But if you're doing an activity and while you're doing it, here's the answer, while you're doing it, you feel moderate to severe pain, all right? Think of like that pain chart. You go to the doctor and say, hey, 1 out of 10 pain, 2 out of 10 pain, like on a scale of 0 to 10, how bad is your pain? So 5 and above, we'll say moderate to severe pain. So high pain, while you're doing it, so the more you move, the worse it feels. So it gets worse with more motion. It doesn't get better, it doesn't go away. later that day, after you've stopped the activity. How do you know you damaged your finger, right? If you stepped on it? Well, if you step on it and then you remove it and it doesn't hurt, right? You're like, all right, cool, we're good. If you step on it and then when you remove it, it's bloody and it hurts later and it's really stiff and it's swollen and it becomes black and blue, you went too far, right? Too hard. So the point is that red light activity is any activity that you're trying to do that while you're doing it, the pain is moderate to severe, 5 out of 10 or better. The more you do it, the worse it gets. Later that day, again, after you've removed the stimulus, it continues to be painful. Later that day, you feel like you need to take medications. You feel like you need to, call the physician. You can't sleep that night because you're uncomfortable, and so on and so forth. The next day, 24, 48 hours later, you continue to be sore and it has not returned to where it was. Well, you flared something up, right? You sparked the fire and you want to stop that activity, right? You want to make sure you don't do that because, that can make things worse. Now, for whatever activity is in question, a yellow light. What's a yellow light activity? If you're doing an activity and you feel mild pain, so, less than a 4 or less out of 10 pain, and the more you do it, right, the pain goes down. So it gets better with motion. And later that day, within, half an hour, sometimes even longer, sometimes immediately, that would be great. When you stop the activity, the pain goes away, or it goes back to baseline. So it simmers down, if you will, right? And then, what was I going to say there? Decrease pain, better. Yeah, and then later that day, you're not having excessive night pain. You don't feel like you need to take medications. It doesn't throw you for a loop the next day. It doesn't flare things up long term. Then you are you're going to yield to that. This is where, we'll go through this in a moment or maybe in another video, but you're going to yield to that in that you want to say, okay, is there anything I can temporarily modify or tweak or change about that activity, not completely stop it. Right? So again, a lot of people in pain are trying to wrest away their pain. We'll talk about why that's not a great idea. So in this yellow light zone, if you're trying to continue being active, absolutely you can stay active, but it has to be yellow light. You're not stopping it unless it's a red light, all right? So yield to that, but you're probably okay to live there because you're already in pain, so we need to figure out a way to stay as active as possible. It's a big take home if you're having pain or problems. And green light, well, you have no issues. Okay, so now where are we going to go from there? So I said, hey, this is the filter through which, if you're going to go to the gym, and you want to do sit-ups, you want to do whatever, you have to ask yourself, is this a red light, is this a yellow light, or is this a green light activity? If it's a green light, do it all you want. If it's a yellow light, then how could you temporarily modify or tweak it such that it's not a red light, but it kind of goes to what the heck is yellow and green? That's a blue, right? It goes to like a bluish light, whatever. It moves closer, it either stays here, and it doesn't go to an orange or a red. If it's a red light, you have to stop that, at least temporarily. And there are other ways we can keep you active. So that's red light, yellow light, green light. And then from there, so if this board, which I would love to get one of those, if this board could swipe, right, then we'll put it onto a new screen here. Keep that filter in mind. And then here's the problem with just resting, all right? So again, a lot of people like to rest away their pain, thinking that it will just go away, and it often does. Before I forget, if you have specific questions or are interested in chatting with me directly, call 484-552-3767. Would love to chat about this. Here we go. So when you're in pain, let's just say this is your pain threshold. You have 400 nerves in the body, 45 miles of nerves. They're just buzzing along waiting for you to hurt yourself. There you go. You hurt yourself, and things eventually, often, simmer down. Sometimes they don't, but they simmer down, and you go on, and you're happy with life. Now, consider this. You were doing some activity, right, that caused you, if you have what we call like a mechanical pain problem, meaning you lifted something, twisted something, we're running, whatever. Often that happens because your body or your tissue, whatever it is, doesn't have the capacity to tolerate it. So you basically, consider this, there's a certain amount of horsepower that's needed for any specific thing to do in life, a certain amount of energy, if you will, right? And sleeping, requires basically nothing or very little. And maybe running is here. Maybe walking is here. Maybe sprinting is here. And, it could go. There's a sliding scale here. But let's just say that, and I think it makes sense to say that running requires more energy than going up the stairs, and then sprinting requires more energy than running. So just there's a spectrum of what the body can tolerate there. And basically where I'm going with this is that often what happens when people hurt themselves is that what they do, or the activity they're trying to do, exceeds what their body is capable of doing. And therefore the tissue gets ticked off and it says, hey, I don't like that. I couldn't handle that. It was too heavy, or you went too much too fast. I haven't never run that far, or whatever, right? So the point is that if you only have this much horsepower, if you're driving a Toyota Camry, but the activity you're trying to do requires a Ferrari, well then you're going to get beat every time, right? And in the body, what I mean by that is if you're only able to lift 5 pounds, but you try to lift 50 pounds, well, you're going to hurt yourself probably. So the point is that generally these problems start because the tissue cannot handle the type of stress you're trying to place upon it. Therefore, you're sort of underpowered. You need to upgrade. You need to drive the Ferrari. So what happens when people rest? They hurt themselves, and then their horsepower, right? They did an activity that was maybe a little bit more than they could handle, so they say, I'll just stop doing it for 4 to 6 weeks, or 2 months, or 10 days, or whatever. But as they're resting, right, the pain is going down, but what's happening is that the other thing that's going down is their strength. So while they're resting, they're actually getting weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. So they're downgrading. So they were doing an activity up here, and they were driving a Ferrari, and they still managed to get hurt. And then while they're injured, they say, I'll do nothing or very little, and then they're downgrading themselves without even knowing it to a Camry or a Honda Civic or something like that. And what happens is then they say, and here's the big flaw, then they say, all right, I have no pain, I feel better. Charlie, I tried to go back to running, or I tried to go back to the gym, and resting didn't work. It just, it came right back. I thought I was good, it went away, and it came right back. And you can see here that the distance or the gap while you're resting between what you need to do the activity you want to get back to, and after you've rested, it really widens, right? So you widen the gap such that now you're really in no position to be able to handle the forces or the effort needed to be able to do that thing. So again, the problem with resting overall is that you lose horsepower, and activities require a certain amount of horsepower or your ability to produce force or whatever. And as you rest, you get weaker and weaker and weaker, and then you try to go back to that thing which bothered you to begin with when you were driving a nice car, and you run into problems, and often it causes pain. And you just repeat this cycle over and over again, and until you want to do something about it. So, with that being said, how do we solve this? So if we can't rest away the pain, what do we do? And really it's like, first we run it through that filter. This is red light, this is yellow light, green light. In no way am I recommending that you continue a red light activity, right? But almost any red light activity you can take and make a yellow light. And then the yellow light can be modified and whatnot. But you try to first make sure that you stay as active as you can. So relative rest is probably a better term there. And really what you want to do is you might need some initial rest, but you have to be aware of the fact that, hey, rest is not the only solution here. And in fact, it's going to make me worse long term if I don't build this back up. So see here, people try to jump right back to it, when in actuality, there's a build-up time there. And that build-up time could be, it depends what it is, but maybe up to 3 months if you need to get more strength or whatever it may be. So this is where somebody like myself as a rehab professional would come in, and we would teach you the specific ways to try to build up the tolerance of the tissue or the body to be able to handle whatever you throw at it. That might be getting back to running, lifting, whatever it may be. And that's just a stepwise progression, starting small and building it up. So trying to think if there's any other recommendation there. Red light, yellow light, green light. No, I think we're good for now. Maybe another video. Quick summary, run it through the filter. All right, take any red light activity and stop that. That's what you would do, hopefully at a red light. A yellow light activity, maybe tweak, modify, but you're probably okay as long as the more you're doing movement, the better it gets, and as long as it goes away relatively quickly after stopping that activity. You want to stay at a yellow light activity. Green light, do it as much as you want. You want to stay at a yellow light activity and not just stop activity altogether, because this is what happens. As you rest, you're actually losing strength. You're losing maybe flexibility. You're losing, with the car analogy, horsepower. You're going from a Ferrari to a Toyota Camry, and then you're trying to jump back into the Ferrari and stomp on the gas, and you can't figure out why rest didn't work. That's why. So what you need to do is you need to gradually build yourself up again. You need to merge. You need to be on the on-ramp rather than just stomping on the pedal. And then, through specific movements, strengthening, whatever it may be, you can better bridge the gap and get back to the things that you love. So if you found this video helpful, like, comment, and or share below. Would love to chat with you. Again, if you're interested in a consultation, free consult, or a free chat with me, 484-552-3767. Thanks for watching, everyone.